Hi everyone, this is Kim with Abundant Life Tarot, and I want to talk about what informs you as a reader and what informs your tarot readings. And what I mean by that is we each bring our very individualistic selves to the tarot reading table. And that's what's beautiful. That's why so many people can resonate with so many different types of readers, because each reader has walked a path of all on their own and had many unique experiences and many things that define them as a person as well as a reader. So I thought it would be interesting to just take a look at what informs me as a reader and what informs my readings. Some of the things that informs my readings, and I actually did like a little spread, if you will. I took my textured tarot and I used, like I always do, jumping cards to answer questions to support what I'm going to be discussing on what informs me as a reader. So you can definitely do this for yourself or on your own and see how it plays out for you. But the first thing that informs me, it informs who I am as a reader, is where I'm from. And I am from two parents who were born, both of my parents were born in Mississippi and they were raised there. And they made the choice to move in 1975 to California from Mississippi to start their life together as a married couple and to grow a family here in California. And I was born in California. I was the first generation to be born here in this state and not in Mississippi. So I'm not just from California, like where people think, oh, Surfside or celebrities. No, I'm from Northern California, and specifically I'm from Oakland, California. I was born and raised in California, at least until I was just before I turned 17. Did we move to Sacramento, California, which is the state's capital. I am very much that hippie child. Like, I was conceived in Berkeley, and I was born in Oakland, and Oakland is the home of the Black Panther movement, and it is always the home of, you know, I don't want to say, but I guess I should just say, you know, it's political uprisings and protests, and I was very much a part of that culture when I lived out there. That is who I am as a person. I fight for the underdog. I fight for the rights of others. It is something that's near and dear to my soul because of where I'm from and because of who I am as a person. I'm an Aquarius, so it just seems natural that, yes, if I'm born in California, that I would probably turn out like this. But I love California, and it was no surprise that the card that jumped for California was the Lover's card for me. I love how I'm able to be myself here. I'm able to practice what I want to practice, be who I want to be, say what I want to say, and it's okay. And there's so many different cultures here. There's so many good foods here. There's so much beauty here. There's a diversity in regions and landscapes, and you know, we have desert to beautiful mountains to wonderful lakes and rivers to the ocean, and forests and gigantic redwood trees, beaches up and down the coast. It's just beautiful. I feel so blessed and honored to be in love with my state. Yes, it is challenging at times to live here. You know, it's not the cheapest place to live, but it's my home. It is my home. And then I have a card to represent Mississippi, which the card that jumped for Mississippi was Temperance. And I thought that was interesting because when I was little, my mother and father would send me to my grandparents in Mississippi to spend summers there. Now, I am very much a California girl, and I didn't know too much about the decorum of you having to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And there were times when I got swatted and got in trouble because I did not honor, like my parents didn't enforce the whole, you have to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. So there was a tempering in me of being more respectful and more conscious of how you approach adults and authority figures, for better or for worse. It tempered the inner roar in me, the inner protest in me, the one that wants to fight and get out in the streets and proclaim that this needs to be done and that needs to be done and we need to get it done together. But being in Mississippi, you have to be careful as a black woman to just say what's on your mind or be what you want to be or be who you want to be. You have to be careful. You have to temper yourself. Not only that, it did bring a certain balance to my life. Spending time with my grandparents in my youth and spending time in the deep woods, because my family is from a very rural part of Mississippi, was good for my soul. I didn't know it at the time. I used to get super homesick for California, for my parents, because I was an only child for 6 years till my sister came along. So I really was connected to my parents. When I was not with them, I was sad. But over time, as the summer wore on, I fell in love with my grandparents. I fell in love with the beautiful lushness of Mississippi and even the rules that were imposed on children. So yes, temperance for sure for Mississippi. Would I go live there now? No, that's not where, I don't feel called to live there, and neither do my parents. When I asked my parents, will they ever want to go back because some of their relatives want to go back, my parents say no, and I agree with them. No. There's, I guess property on both of my parents' sides that they've inherited or shared inheritance with their siblings. But my parents are just like, the siblings can have it because they're never going back. Yeah. And so let's see what else informs me. My parents and grandparents. I had a very rich and crazy growing up in Oakland, growing up in a city. And, I'm not going to go into all the details about that, but my parents were definitely influential. They had ups and downs as a couple, and they stuck it out for better or for worse. And as the oldest child, I got to witness that. But what I loved about my parents is they taught me how to love to learn, and they taught me how to, want to explore and seek what else is out there. Don't just take things at face value, and that you have the power to change your situation. You have the power. So my parents were very influential in my life. I saw my parents make transformations in their own lives and bearing witness to, like my father becoming sober and becoming a very happy man after many years of addiction was powerful. And bearing witness to my parents, getting on the other side of that was magical. And so the magician comes up for my parents. When I do readings, I draw on my experiences from everywhere, my intuition from everywhere, all the way from when I was a child to me being a mother. We all do as readers. We're not just, these little cutout paper figures that just kind of like, okay, this is what it is. And, we look at the cards and, for some people it is, but I'm pulling from everywhere, and I'm definitely pulling from my parents' influence and my parents' gifts to me, and just being resourceful and in when I do readings, being able to empower people with being resourceful and reminding them that they have the magician power in themselves. My grandparents, the Ace of Swords jumped. You know, my grandparents were raised during a time of no nonsense. I mean, they were, I guess, born in the midst of Jim Crow, Southern times, living in Mississippi. And, you know, they worked hard. They worked hard to raise their families, to support their families, to try to leave a legacy of love and just a legacy of being able to move forward and try to be stronger than the generation before. And they were like clear-headed, clear thought, had always sharp, poignant advice that I could listen to. They talked about setting appropriate boundaries, and they both, like my maternal grandmother was more like how I am, or I'm more like her, where she was very spiritual, but she was also very religious. She went to a Methodist church, I believe, and she also was superstitious, and she also believed that we all had certain gifts. So she was all over the place. But she was always, you know, able to give clear, strong advice. And my paternal grandparents, well, they were super religious, not really superstitious, and they also were able to give clear advice. And I may not always agree with their religious beliefs, but I loved how they were clear in what they were speaking to me, and I was able to be able to give advice to others because I remember the wisdom of what my grandparents had to say. So my husband came home very loud. He startled me, so we're just going to move ahead, keep going, now that I'm not startled anymore with him coming through the door. So another thing that influences my readings and influences who I am as a reader and my readings is my work. I have worked for almost 20 years in the insurance automobile claims industry. And for many of those years, I was a claims adjuster. And I had to bring a lot of empathy. I had to bring a lot of understanding and also technical savvy, because my specialty was settling injury claims. And I thrived at that. I was successful. I earned a great salary. I earned bonuses, and it also taught me how to bring balance to people's lives when they're in a time of crisis, and how to help them get back financially onto their feet. And you know, that means a lot to me, and that definitely colors my experience as a tarot reader. I'm able to triage a situation really quickly. When I worked for another insurance company, this particular insurance company was one that you could call the insurance company and actually speak to your adjuster who you are going to be assigned to. That is not the norm. Normally you call and you give your claim information, and then maybe the next business day an adjuster will contact. But this particular company was different. The calls would come straight through a lot of times from the accident scene, even before the police have arrived. And so I had to be that calm, soothing voice, that calm, soothing energy for people. When people are involved in auto accidents, it's generally a symptom of something else bigger going on in their life. Definitely they're distracted. I mean, there's no joke about that. But what is going on? There's like there's something energetically out of alignment, and the accident forces them to have to deal with the situation, you know. So I recognized my power in that. It was crazy. I was able to settle a lot of settlements because I just intuitively knew what people would want to settle for. It was always fair. I always felt that, always operated above board, fair, honest, and people resonated with that. They rarely wanted to get attorneys because they just wanted to deal with me. So when I started my tarot business, it was just a natural part of me of wanting to give more service, this time in a much more intimate way, and helping people before they get into auto accidents. Yeah, so nothing was more rewarding to me than when people's cars, if they were totaled, we settled and now they've got a new car, or we repaired their car and they didn't think it could ever be repaired, or they were hurt and injured and they received some monies to help them on their way. They get pain and suffering monies and they're happy, and that made me feel good. And I just love to be able to help people. I get high off of that. So it's no wonder that the Three of Pentacles jumped for me when I think of, you know, my career and how that colors me as a, you know, my experience as a reader. It made me a savvy tarot business person, tenacious, because you have to be. It's, you know, you're expected to settle so many claims and to not just give away the farm. So it's like, okay, I have to look at what other claims are settling for. I have to look at what's being claimed as far as their injuries go and what kind of medical treatment they have. So it's, you know, it's a lot that goes into it. And I was compensated and recognized for my success in being able to resolve claims. And now I, you know, work in different capacities in the insurance world. But yeah, that was my bread and butter. And like I said, it's no surprise that the Three of Pentacles comes up for me, because yeah, a lot, you know, I would just get a picture in my mind of a figure of what the settlement should be, and that's what it would be. There were times when I was dealing with fatality claims and I had to talk to the survivors, you know, or the spouses, and you know, it was teaching moments for me when people are in crisis and when they are in grief, how they just need to be, you know, helped along, and just everything made as easy as possible for them. So I learned so much about myself, about my spirituality, about helping others through my work, for sure. And it definitely, to this day, impacts and influences my tarot readings and my tarot reading business and me as a tarot reader. I could also feel the sensations of people's auto accidents. That's when I started realizing that I was an empath, and sometimes it would become too much, but I pushed through. I was a single mother for many years of 2 boys. I had to work. There was no choice in the matter. I had to go to work every day, and I had to, even though I was starting to feel like I was having post-traumatic stress disorder from feeling all the vibrations of people and their accidents and their stress, and trying to, you know, like clear out the noise just to get to the facts. What did the witnesses say? What really happened? Get back down to the facts. It was so much to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but I did it. And with the help of my deep-rooted spirituality. Yeah, I just realized that I'm not mic'd up. Sorry about that. And I hope you guys can actually hear what I had said before, because I'm not going to re-record it. Then, let's see. So, spirituality, the Ace of Pentacles came up. And I thought that was interesting, because it definitely, actually it's not too interesting when I think about it now. I was raised early on as a Christian. My parents grew up Christian, in a Christian household, and my dad in a strict Christian household. So in my youth, I definitely identified as a Christian. But then over time, as I was doing that, I was also in bookstores and libraries all the time, studying about the occult, about the New Age, about astrology, about tarot, about any kind of way that you could divine. I take playing cards I use playing cards to divine with. I like the game MASH. I like the little one where you make like the little origami thing where you could try to predict that way. Okay, sorry. I could hear an interruption about to come down the stairs. So I was like, nope, let me head it off before I get startled. So the Ace of Pentacles is beautiful because I, in my later years and to present day, practice religious science of mind, which is now known. It is actually Centers for Spiritual Living, to differentiate themselves from Scientology. But we believe in the power of your thoughts, being able to manifest what it is that you wish to manifest in your life. And if you want to have more abundance, you have to, align to that vibration. And so the New Thought movement is a powerful thing in my life, and it colors my experiences as a reader, because when I do tarot readings, I'm not really bringing or pulling, I don't think, forth from my heavily Christian background. I do refer to God as God sometimes, or the universe, or the universal spirit or source. So yes, I guess there's some leanings or Christian leanings there, but really I'm trying to teach people that they have the power to manifest their dreams, to manifest the relationship they desire, to seek out what they wish to feel in that manifestation, not actually the manifestation of itself. And when you start to feel already in that emotional state of what you're trying to receive, the universe then starts to work to bring it to you. So that's why I think it's beautiful. The Ace of Pentacles jumped for this particular position, because that is so true. Bishop, please leave my bag alone. Thank you. Sorry. It's like 1,000,001 interruptions and all of my kids are gone. My husband is here, but he's like definitely a big interruption. Love him to pieces, but he is. He wants the attention. Like, he wanted to like pop in and say hi, and I'm like, not right now. This is not that kind of video today. The dog is kind of right here by my feet because the kids are gone. So yeah. All right. So now, in terms of love, I got the Knight of Swords, which I think is funny because when I do fall in love, it is like fast and hard and beautiful and combustible and, and heady. And usually the person I would fall in love with is someone I mentally connect with. And so we just have a beautiful meeting of the minds. But with that, you see the little rose here budding. It can sometimes be a little tumultuous and sometimes be where you've got two headstrong people butting against one another. I take that in as a reader, and that informs my readings, like especially for love readings, because I have lived the life of the person who has been the one dating, the one who has fallen in love a couple of times. am married. I love my husband dearly. He loves me. I've been in relationships that were not reciprocated. And so, I thought this was an appropriate card because, yeah. And then when I feel like it's time to bounce and go, I charge straight ahead. Without hesitation. I'm out. It's time to go. But I wasn't always like that. I had to get that way. And so when I do love readings, again, I'm all about empowering my clients, and I'm all about empowering, I might be doing a reading for myself or doing a reading for others who are not my clients. This definitely helps me to help them say, hey, you know what? You can be agile. You can forge ahead. You can move forward in love, and you also can move forward in letting go of someone when it's time to let go. And you have the power to do so. So my love life definitely colors my tarot readings and experience, and who I am as a person. And I'm definitely like Queen of Swords energy, where I just don't take no mess. Like, if I was dating again, oh, I'd be, what's the word? I wouldn't be like I was when I was dating in the past. Let's just say that. You know, there'd be a lot of more broken hearts. I'd be the Knight of Swords, busting through and like out of there. All right, so with regards to love issues and breakups, how do I deal with it? The Eight of Wands, and how does that influence me as a reader, or influence my readings? Eight of Wands. Again, when it's time to move on, it's time to move on. It can take some time. You know, the Swords energy is about the mental and about, fast moving thoughts. And at least for me, like, I have a short window of time that I mourn a relationship. Sure, if it was a relationship that's like 5 years or older, like longer, then it's going to take me probably a couple of weeks to get over it. I kid you not. If I was just dating someone, take me about a week. I am, again, an air sign, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But the Eight of Wands definitely, I'm like, let's move on. Let's move forward. I've got passion stirring, wanting to connect with, with the world, maybe not with the partner right now. Let's just forge ahead. And that definitely colors my experience. I have to sometimes temper that, though, in readings with clients, because not everyone is where I am. And I have to sometimes remember that, and I do, but sometimes when I'm doing the reading and I'm just in that zone with, the connection to spirit, and I'm interpreting the cards, it just comes out and I can't help it. Like, especially when I have clients who will repeatedly come back to me for the same issue. And I know, like, the cards are going to send out similar messages, and they do. It just keeps sending out similar messages. And then it's just like at this point where I'm like, I, as a big sister or as a spiritual friend, want to impart some knowledge on you. You need to move on. It's time to let go. It's time to move forward. Let's see what other passion and endeavors you can explore right now. So, for better or for worse, that definitely colors my reading experiences. And I think people appreciate that. It may take them a couple of times to really hear it and for them to let it sink in. But when it sinks in, it's like, okay, I get it now, and I'm moving on. So it works out. And then finally, what also colors, majorly colors who I am as a person, who I am as a reader, colors my reading experiences, is loss, and having to have serious tower and death moments in my life. Death, and as far as like the literal, and as far as the tarot card and the tower moments, I've had loss. I've, had a miscarriage. I have had a son that was born and I was 32 weeks pregnant. He lived for 6 weeks. His name is Devin. And due to a placenta abruption, he lost a lot of oxygen, and they were not able to get him out in an emergency C-section in time to save him from the severe brain damage that he had to deal with. And it was a very trying time in my life. I was 20 years old. I was a young mother starting out, so I didn't, it was my first time really dealing with loss. He lived for 6 weeks. We had to make the decision as a young couple, my ex, the father of my boys, we had to make a decision to pull the plug. So that definitely colored my experience, and it allows me to be very compassionate for people who are going through loss, especially loss of a child. I've had loss, obviously, of friends over the years, as we all have, grandparents over the years, as we all have. And I witnessed my son Daniel being struck by a vehicle and nearly killed. And he spent about a little under a month in ICU, or intensive care. And it was life-altering. Each time I had a crisis like that, I had to lean in and lean strong on my intuition and on my instincts to navigate those situations. And I almost once everything settled down and I go back to using my cards or other tools of divination. By the way, I used to use like postcards. I used to collect postcards as a little girl when we would go traveling around the United States. I'd collect postcards and I used those as my oracle cards. I didn't call them oracle cards. I call them postcards, and I'd just be like, oh, seeing what the pictures spoke to me about, you know. Anyways, all of that, when I would go back to doing those things or journaling or whatever, it would be like, wow, there's like a new depth to my intuition. There's a new like awareness. There's a new like keen hearing, like clairaudient, like I can hear more clearly after having to rely in high stress moments on my intuition. Like when doctors were asking about Daniel on treatments day in and day out, like I had to be like, okay, should I authorize this? Should I not authorize this? What should I do? And that was one of the reasons why tarot had re-entered my life in a full crazy way. I would like use the cards to help me with that. So 5 of Swords came up for this loss and me dealing with loss and tower moments. And, you know, it's trying to make the good out of the bad. And sometimes it feels like there's no win to certain situations like death or like, you know, like witnessing a child nearly dying and you're like, whoa. But there are some good with the bad. Daniel's okay. He's alive. And I'm grateful for that. And our relationship is stronger and closer because of that, because we nearly lost him. And yeah, I mean, I take those experiences and I archive them and I call upon them, like, you know, when someone comes to the library and they want to call upon a book or something, you have it cataloged somewhere. Sometimes the readings will pull from that place. And I am not afraid of darkness. I am not afraid of going there anymore. That's another plus side to the 5 of Swords. I'm not afraid to go there anymore. Whereas some people are very afraid to have loss and chaos in their life. I recognize that there's a bigger picture in all of this, and that everything is working out for the greater good of everyone, even if there are casualties. Hard to say. Sometimes it's a hard reality to deal with, but that's just what it is. So yeah, I thought it would be fun, interesting to look at what influences us as tarot readers and what influences our readings. And you know, if you do decide to do a video responding to this, you don't have to use the cards. You just talk about it. But I'd love to hear what colors you as a tarot reader. And yeah, it'd be kind of fun to hear what people have to say about that. Because I love getting to know people, and I love people getting to know me a little bit more. So yeah, share with me. Can't wait to hear from all of you. Sorry for all the interruptions today. So much love and many blessings. Bye.